Welcome to the show. It's Ralph, and on today's episode, I'm going to have a sit-down conversation with Shafeek and Spencer Hickman from Mondo Death Waltz. Let's cue the music. Since 2006, I did a Lost podcast back in the olden times, and it's always just been a conversation. I don't have anything prepared as far as like questions and stuff. I just want to have a conversation, so it's not going to be
just
anything
like the
sort of formal.
Lost.
Yeah, it's that's funny.
Hey, look! I'm gonna throw this out there. I think Lost is brilliant. That is a joke that only us fans can make.
Right. Yeah, working on this documentary, it's going to be pretty interesting because it's going to be all fans, and it's going to be.
You got to do the Matrix thing where I don't know if you are a fan of the Matrix series or if you ever owned the home video releases of it, but on the
yes, absolutely.
The DVD releases, they didn't do commentaries. They invited people who liked the movies and people who didn't like the movies to do commentaries. So they gave a full commentary track to people who don't like it. And I think that's such an inspired take to do, just to be like, here's critics who don't like it, and here's philosophers who think that what we did was kind of sublime.
It's like the Steven Soderbergh commentaries where it's him and the writer, and the writers hate the movie. But I love The Matrix. I had a friend tell me once that he no longer trusted my judgment in film because I liked Matrix Revolutions.
Well, that's a whole conversation right there. I think I like the first one. When we were getting ready to do the latest movie, I was like, I haven't seen those films for so long, and they are like most favorite films of all time, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking buy the 4K Blu-ray Ultra HD, watch it, and the first one is still is legitimately like an all-time classic.
Perfect, maybe.
It's pretty perfect, yeah. I wouldn't say it's pretty perfect. The second one, I was just like, wow. The third one, I was like, wow. But I have to give it to them for just going out and making it. But it's they're pretty wild movies, man.
Yeah, I really like. I think I like the third one more than the second.
You did. I think I did when you did this. Recent rewatch. That was your take too.
Yeah, I was like, I prefer the third to the second, but the second is very audacious movie.
Reloaded is one of my favorite pieces of art. It is so audacious. It feels like almost antagonistic. It feels like a movie that made by someone who was like, okay, like you're gonna give me infinity money to do this. Here's what I actually wanted to do, and it is just your action star literally just having 5 philosophical conversations with different people. I want to explain causality, so I'm going to have him talk to a Frenchman who gives a woman an orgasm cake as an example of causality. And you're like, this is the sequel to The Matrix? What is going on? I love that movie to death. It's absolutely unhinged in the best way possible.
And then 4, I forget, Resurrections. Yes, of course. I just saw it the once, but I absolutely loved it. And I know people have complaints about the actions. I didn't care. I was surprised it was getting made. And
look, man, it's 2022. People have complaints about everything.
Yeah.
Fans, man, you can't make anyone happy, man. It seems it's fairly crazy. I saw the hoo-ha over because they released an image of the new Pinhead yesterday, and people are like, this is outrageous, this isn't Doug Bradley. And I was like, have you read the original novella? Like That's exactly how Pinhead is described. It's insane, man. I'm just like, everyone needs to calm down. Also, this stuff isn't going to destroy your life. It's just like, it's a movie. Come on.
Right.
You know?
Right. I see that with you guys. I jumped online to get the Batman on Mondo's site when that was released. I love the score. Michael's a friend, and I'm like, I want to get this. I really like the movie. The movie surprised me. The movie really surprised me. I'm not the biggest Batman fan, but I was like, all right, love the movie, love the score. Jumped on Mondo to get it. Got there as soon as possible. Got the splatter version. Awesome. Stoked. Awesome. I got a record. It's a record. Jump online just to see what people are saying, and like people are like up in arms about not being able to get like the exclusive and stuff, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, the other version's cool too, and it's like, are you sad because you just want to resell it? Are you mad? Like, what is the anger that gets thrust onto the internet is just insane, because it is, you know, I love records. I'm new to vinyl collecting, but like at the end of the day, like,
how new
for music.
How long have you been collecting? I'm really interested in this, because like on that Facebook groups, I see a lot of people sort of going, you know, someone sent a video saying this is warped, it's outrageous, and I was like, that's not a warp. That's just like the process of record. And we got into a really good conversation. And like I was explaining to him, he didn't know like how records were pressed, and then once you explain, you know, he was like, "Oh, this is awesome! Yeah, I totally get it." And I was like, and also you have to think about any used records that you buy; they've been passed down like 30 years. So any damaged or badly warped or dished used records are taken out of circulation and they're thrown away. That's why you generally get good condition used records, unless you're in a dollar bin these days, and it's just like complete rubbish. So I'm fascinated by like how long people have been collecting.
So for me, I've been listening to film score my entire life. Since I was 4, my mom got me Raiders of the Lost Ark on cassette tape because she wouldn't let me see the music, and it shut me up. You can listen to the music. And so I'm 45 years old, so I've been listening to it like film scores for 40 plus years. During the pandemic, we had a record player. My wife had a free Victrola that she won at work. It was one of those ones that looked like an old-timey, like Art Deco. Yeah. Never really used it. I never used it. And then during the pandemic, we were just kind of stuck at home. And we got like a U-turn player at Orbit for our anniversary. And that was like 2 years ago. So about two and a half years I've been collecting records, because when you're sitting at home, because I was working over at Disneyland, place was closed. So I was sitting on the couch playing Animal Crossing while she was in the living room working. And so I just started ordering records. And I think the first one I got from Mondo was Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy was the first one I got from Mondo. I'd gotten a couple from other places before that, but so that's about how long I've been collecting vinyl. But like I really, really got into it, and mostly it's because I don't know what's going on with you guys in Waxworks, but that Godzilla license, that Toho license, went to you guys and them, and I'm a huge Toho fan, and so like you guys and them like opened up the floodgates for me really collecting. So my shelves in the front room are so full. My shelves in the front room are so full that I just now put my Toho ones there. I know it's a mix of both, but
did you get the box set, the Waxwork box set?
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's it right there. Okay.
That was a tough sell because that came out like just after Christmas, and it was like $400. And I told my wife, I said, could it be my birthday present? I'm like, but holy crap, like $400, what they put out was insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
There's a lot of records in there. There's a lot of music in there.
Yeah.
To answer the question you asked a little bit ago about like how we respond to sort of the weird backlash you get occasionally when things sell out, and how your response was that, you know, oh, I just like getting records, you know, that's kind of my energy. As you can see, like once you have a certain amount of records in your life, you get a little bit less precious about the specific records you get. My buddies Enjoy the Ride, who mostly put out like some pop culture stuff, but mostly like band stuff. Like they reissued this band called the Spill Canvas that I used to tour with, and they asked me, and I was like, "Oh, can I get a copy of those?" And they were like, "Yeah, which one do you want?" And I was like, "Whichever one you don't want. I want it for the music, right?" And they're like, "You sure? Because we can send you like the nicest one." And I was like, "No. I mean, like, I don't actually like for me, it is whatever." So I think some of that energy probably trickles down into our release strategy, where we're like, and this is us being a victim of our own mythos and success, because Mondo used to be a company where like if you blink you miss it, and I guess to some degree it still is, but way less, I feel, because I've been with the company for 12 years now, and I remember back when I started, you'd put up the Kill Bill poster on sale by Tyler Stout and it would be sold out before you even hit the button, and then you'd have to go in and refund like 100 people because you oversold it by 100 people. And now we don't oversell it, but things still sell out within 5 minutes. And for us, we're like, well, if you were there, you got it. You were fast enough to get it. If you walked up an hour late and you missed it, that's just collecting, right? You got to be there when it happens. But to supplement that, we've been like, well, we should just like also make a version that's accessible to everyone, right? Because like in theory, what you wanted is the record, and this is still limited. We're not making 100,000 of these things. We're still making less than 10,000 of it. So like if you want it, you're still going to get a rare version. You're just not getting that like rarest version. But that is still not enough for some people, because it doesn't seem fair that it still feels like one's less than, right? And that's a hard thing to have a nuanced conversation about with a large collective. You can't be like, this is still just as good, it's just different, because we're the ones who set those terms. And I get it. It's a tough dialogue to have, but we are trying to give people the best of both worlds. We're trying to appease people who are like in it for the like collectability, and also people who are in it for the music. And it's a Venn diagram where people in the middle who want both are sort of left unsatisfied, and it's kind of hard to satisfy all three of those people at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of tough with like secondary market people, where it feels like people are just buying the sort of collector version just to make a profit off of it.
That has been around since limited editions have been available. That's not a new thing. It's just more accessible to people now. When I was a kid, like, I'm fucking old, but when I was a kid, if a band came to town and they sold out, you'd rock up to the venue that night and you would buy off a ticket tag, right? So if a ticket was, say, $10, there'd be $30 off that tag. It's the same thing, right? It's just now because it's so visible with Discogs and eBay. It's just kind of it's amplified a little bit. And then there's always been limited edition records, right? I've been buying records for a long time, and I remember getting a Violence 10-inch that had like pretend vomit in it. Like way before someone made a liquid filled record. This was like 86 or something. So like these things have always been around, but I just feel that because the hobby has a ton of new collectors, and I think maybe they just don't realize that. And we were talking about this week because we've been traveling everywhere, visiting friends at plants and stuff. And I think the industry does like a really good job of telling new collectors vinyl is the best thing, the best way to listen to music. It's real, it's true. You must have it on vinyl. The industry does a terrible job of telling people about the foibles of vinyl, that it's inherently flawed and always has been. The surface noise, you get static, there's pops. Like you may get a slight warp, but it may not affect play. So I think the industry doesn't do a great job of kind of educating new collectors of what they're letting themselves in for. So everyone just thinks, oh well, if the industry is telling me that vinyl's the best, it's got to sound as good as Spotify or a CD, and it's like, no, you kind of have to embrace it and accept it. And I think when you do, you become a much more mellow kind of collector, and you can deal with a lot more issues. Like like Mo was saying, he doesn't care what color he gets. If I get a scene split, I'm like, it's cool. It's like, it's whatever. To me, it doesn't. Let's be honest. I buy a record, I'll play it 3 times that day. I'll put it on my shelf, and I might go back to it in a year, right? I'm not sat there going, oh my God, that new Chat Pile album, it's got a seam split on like the D side. It's just like, I'll listen to it whenever I do. So I think it you know, it's crazy, but I do understand that people want this very perfect thing, and if you're a collector, you want the pristine thing. But I do think that people should understand more. That's one of the things we really want to do now that we have a bigger team behind us. Now that we're being supported by a larger group, is like educating people about what vinyl is and the issues that you might come up against.
One of the things is I'm new to collecting vinyl, and I started this show back in 2007 and took like a 15-year break or whatever. But it's mostly because I like film score, and vinyl gave me a new outlet to discuss film music just by doing like unboxings and talking about new records coming out. And because I'm new, I start looking into these things, like how to like protect your records, how to clean your records. And I'm seeing all of these things. There's so many contradictions out there, and people saying one thing, oh, don't listen to that guy, you got to do it like this. And it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, fuck it, I'm not going to put all of my records in slip sleeves. One of these days I'm going to be gone, and someone else can deal with them. But for now, I like the ease of just pulling it off the shelf, taking out the record, and listening to the music. And
if you're listening to it actively, that is just an additional 2-step process to getting into your records. I tell you, I DJ, and I was at one point putting everything into a nice sealed adhesive polyline sleeve or poly sleeve. And then once I started using them on a regular basis to DJ, I was like, this is the biggest impediment. This is such a pain in the ass. This is such a thing where I'm like, in fact, now I mostly turn my dust sleeve sideways so that the disc is just like easily, I can just really grab it, put it on the turntable, then slide it back in. And I'm just sort of like, I'm sure that this would make someone completely cringe. But
I mean, I do use Japanese resealable sleeves, but like anything else, I don't really care about, And I've had records that I purchased when I was 8, 9 years old, when I used to go to West Bromwich with my father, and like every week I'd get a Star Wars figure, and then when I was a little bit older, I found records. I would buy a record and stuff, and they've been through multiple moves. Like me, I have a record cleaner, but I'm not like obsessive about it. I tend to use it to clean newer records because they're weirdly dirtier than older records, And if you're buying from like a good used source, they're generally cleaned anyway before they even arrive at your door.
I just got a record off of Discogs, and it was my first complete loss. It said very good plus. It says played perfectly. The box, it was just like dog ears. It was like smashed all on every corner, and I opened it up, and the sleeves were like ripped in the middle, and there was just complete crackles when I played it. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, usually Discogs is pretty good. I've had a pretty good time because I collect James Bond. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and the only records for James Bond are pretty much the old ones.
Yeah.
And then they've been putting out the newer ones. It's like that secondary market. It's such a crapshoot, and it made
one man's VG plus is another man's poor.
Oh, this thing looked gnarly. Since
Bond is a fun one. Did you little known fact? So in our entire Mondo catalog, if you were to like itemize every single spine number, there's only one number that's fully missing, and it's Mond 007. And it's because we've been holding that in the hopes that we can do a Bond thing someday. It's been sadly one of the hardest things to do.
Since there's 25 films, and if you only have one number set aside, I could see a good like 50 disc box set.
Right. We had considered it at one point. We actually had the rights to do Skyfall back when the film came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I shouldn't go too deep into details because it's still sort of a touchy subject, because we would still have to do it and work with them. But we had sketches done and everything. And then they went in for approvals, and like someone in the chain of command before it even got to Dan Jack, Eon Productions, were just sort of like, hold up. You can't do drawings for James Bond. who told you can do this? And I was like, well, this is sort of what we do, we're Mondo. Right. We do drawings for movies, right? And someone was like, not for James Bond. They're really like likenesses, talent, all this stuff. The studio is very, very sensitive to new artwork, and you'll notice it. There's no official alternative art for James Bond, with the exception of maybe some of the novels, the actual Fleming novels that get revised. But even those, are very specific about never drawing anyone who actually drawing Bond as a person that you can recognize. It's always someone from behind, or it's someone in the shadows or whatever. They're just sort of you can't draw James Bond. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we try to figure out new workarounds and ways to get about it, but it just sort of fell apart after that point. And then there's still some titles, like you said, that have not been on vinyl. Like the entire Brosnan era has not been released on any form of physical beyond CD. So there's a possibility we can do it. I also love GoldenEye. The game. The game that was also in consideration at one point, but we're holding it and trying to figure out what it is. Someday.
I think Enjoy the Ride just released that, like a GoldenEye video game, but it's like a orchestra version.
Yeah, because that's the way. A lot of these games, you can't release the official soundtrack. You have to do re-records. There's a label that just put out a Chrono Trigger re-record that's that actually sounds amazing, and I just got it, and I'm quite enthusiastic about it. But it's not the original soundtrack, right? But Enjoy the Ride, they were just carrying copies of another labels. They were distributing that because I saw them teasing it, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on with this?" And not that it faded my interest, but it was sort of no one figured out the way to do the original GoldenEye 007 soundtrack.
Right. I guess recently they released steelbook versions of Bond movies, and the cover art didn't have Bond on them, but they did use the imagery from the opening titles.
Oh, that's fun.
Which kind of cool, but that's really strange. There was a video game, From Russia with Love video game, came out years ago on GameCube that had a drawing of Sean Connery.
Was it not from the original poster?
It may have been, but I thought it was a new drawing. But I'm a huge Bond fan, and I've been finding him really good quality. I just got a Moonraker at Amoeba in Hollywood that is pristine, and it almost to the point. It was almost to the point where I was like, this doesn't sound like vinyl. There wasn't a single pop.
Wow.
The whole album.
You need to start collecting the Japanese versions. They're far superior.
Yeah. I'll look into it. That's the thing. I'm so new. I have a question for you guys, and it may sound naive, but that's just I'm sort of ignorant to the whole thing. There's Mondo and there's Death Waltz. Is it essentially the same thing? Because sometimes I know that it's released through Mondo and sometimes it's released through Death Waltz, which...
We come up with this week, actually, with our new buses at Funko. So we're just but we don't get what this is. I mean, it's essentially all Mondo, right?
Okay.
So Death Waltz was the label that I started, that I was running on my own. At the same time, Mo was putting out records with Mondo. Right. I mean, I don't want to bore people because we've said this so many times, but when we joined forces, we kept Death Waltz because we tend to put the horror movies and more cult movies and smaller movies on there, because obviously with Mondo, we've got things like your Jurassic Park or your Pixar, and it's just a way to differentiate a little bit between the two. Okay. But it's all Mondo. People ask me that even today, so do you still own Death Waltz? And I was like, no, sold out a long time ago. It's but it's a good way. We could remember when we were releasing, I can't remember what Disney movie it was, and we'd also got Porno Holocaust coming out at the same time. You can't put those on the same label, So
that makes sense.
It's a good way to change it. And then Originals is a non-soundtrack label, which has been really quiet lately, but there's a few interesting things coming up on that in the next year or so.
Yeah, because Mondo, when we first started, we started in horror. The first Mondo title is Maniac, then the Beyond, then it's Deadly Spawn. So our origins on the soundtrack front are in horror, But very quickly after that, we started doing things with like Leica, so Coraline and Paranorman, and then we did a Studio Ghibli record, and then we did Gravity, and then we started doing like some mainstream. Then we did Jurassic Park, and then Back to the Future, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, so like we can do anything technically. Like if you ask us what Mondo's label's voice is, it's everything, which is, you know, kind of it works to our advantage, but it also, as curators, it becomes a bit tricky to establish, you know, a fandom that feels the need to want to collect everything or to trust you, because, you know, I don't know if you've ever tried doing like a subscription model like Vinyl Me Please or something like that. Those are really fun, but you really have to just be like, I listen to everything. I'm an omnivore. And there are some people who are like that, you know. I guess there are people who buy every Criterion Collection Blu-ray as well, right? But they're more likely than not the people who buy specific ones when it suits their needs. And for us, we were like, well, you know, Death Waltz had a very passionate group of followers and people who were very specific about buying every Death Waltz because it was very curated and it never wavered from that voice. He didn't go like, here's Maniac, here's Zombie Flesh Eaters, and then he didn't go like, and then now here's Amelie. You know, like he didn't do that and like throw everyone off. Like, he had a very curated. So like for them, they've been playing with Toho. You did Godzilla back in like 2014, didn't you?
2014, yeah, we did the original.
That's the one Death Waltz I don't have.
I don't have it. I don't have any of those early records, man. I used to give them to people if people were pissed. Like if something happened, like when we released the Fog and it crashed, it didn't just crash the website, it destroyed the website. And it had to be rebuilt up from the ground up, and it took 9 days. And people were not happy. And I remember sitting there because it was literally just me and chatting to our guy who did the website. And I just cracked open a bottle of wine, and I was just sat there crying, apologizing to people online because they couldn't get it. You know, I mean, that's the big thing when the whole merger with Mondo came along. I was like, oh wow, like, you know, our then bosses were like, okay, you two guys, you're the music guys, you figure it out. And we'd never worked with each other, we didn't know each other, we figured it out and we forged this path, and I think we've done a pretty good job. And now we're with Funko, and that's exciting because we now have access to, you know, a huge amount of talented people who are helping us to make the label even bigger and better. So, you know, it's like it's all kind of like discovery, and it's all exciting.
Is that going to be easier to get new licenses as well?
Good question.
Yeah.
Because they seem to have every license on the planet.
They don't seem to. They do.
They do.
Yeah. I mean,
but music is very, very different from consumer products, which is something that we've had to have conversations with a lot of people about, because, you know, we are very lucky in that we've been doing this now for over a decade. We have friends and contacts and partners in every single studio, every label. And so we can kind of have these conversations with everyone about what's coming up, what can we be involved in, who needs what from us, how can we benefit from, you know, how would they benefit from releasing something on Mondo or Death Waltz, like what kind of exposure can we all get from it, blah, blah, blah. Like we can sort of workshop these sort of platforms, because a lot of times studios really do treat soundtracks as like opportunities to market to a different demographic rather than a thing that's a, you know, revenue generator. Because think about you've been in soundtracks for years, how niche of a niche, you know, it's a niche thing, and then put that in a smaller box, and that's vinyl soundtrack collectors. So like there are people who look at that and they go like, this isn't really what makes money, this is what makes composers happy and filmmakers happy. There are directors who always wanted a soundtrack on vinyl, and there are composers who just don't want their thing to go straight to Spotify. And then there's opportunity for people to be talking about it because Mondo is putting it out and Death Waltz is putting it out, and so they go like, okay, so this is a perfect storm, we'd love to work on these things. But that's different than going to like Marvel or Disney and saying like, hey, so Ant-Man 3 is coming out, we want to make toys for it, and then start developing it 8 months in advance because that's how long it takes to develop a toy, right? we have to, like, a lot of times we're getting brought into the conversation maybe mere weeks before a thing comes out, because that's when audio is being finished, because that's when they know what they actually have, because scoring is like the last thing that gets done on a movie.
Right.
And so it's very different. Like, they're like, oh, are you guys going to be doing this title in 2024 that we know that's coming out already because it's been announced by a studio? And we're like, we hope so.
We really won't know tend to work.
Yeah,
we tend to work really quickly because we just have to. Like, I just got some high-res stills of a movie that releases the first week of October, and we only just saw the movie and just got the artist to see the movie, and we have to hit day and date. We're 4 weeks, man, to hustle to get that over the finish line. So that's kind of our day-to-day, I guess. We have projects that take years. We both worked on things that have taken like 5-6 years to come through.
I'm still working on That Thing You Do, which is coming up on year 5 at this point.
And then you have things that literally you can get done in 2 weeks, man. If the stars align and the artist's free and they get it and they know what they're doing. So it's every project's different, and it's all exciting, frustrating, mind-boggling, at the same time.
What's fun is, as a Toho collector, as a Godzilla fan, it's fun getting the latest one, looking at the back of the Obi strip and seeing what's coming down the pipeline. And sometimes I'm like, man, I'm really looking forward to that one. When's that one going to come? And then all of a sudden the one that you didn't even know was coming just pops up. I think Godzilla vs. Destoroyah showed up at DCon, which I got the DCon version, the designer con, number 2. I had a friend who was at the convention and picked that up for me. Man, friends at conventions are great.
Well, you should go to DCon this year.
I'll try. I don't.
Oh, you should. It's fun, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially if you like Toho stuff. I'm telling you, it's the place to be, at least in North America, as far as I've.
But the problem is, I'll spend money and I don't have
money to spend. Well, we're gonna drop another record at DCon, a new Toho project at DCon. So.
And you can't say what it is.
I mean, we've announced it's finished.
If it's on the back, it's finished.
Okay. Yeah, it's shipped already. Yeah. So we're just keeping hold of it, so just in case, because production is like so funky at the moment. Like that's finished, so I know it will be there. So,
I'm trying to remember if because Waxwork also has their stuff going on, so it's tough to keep track of who's got what titles. I want to say you guys have Matango. Is that right?
Well, yeah, good mushroom people. Yeah.
There's also another one you have coming out, and I've done an interview with the artist of that one, and I'm waiting for you guys to do the announcement for it so I can release my episode.
What is it?
It's Rodan.
Oh, we've announced that people know we're doing that. I just got fresh artwork because we had to make some revisions on the first set of art that we did, but the artwork for that is incredible. Like,
I saw the first one. I thought it was amazing. And
Henry.
That's he's a friend, and
I love
word got out. I'm friends with Mick and Michael.
Yep.
And we have a group that plays Fireball Island, the board game, every Sunday during quarantine. We're still doing it, and we're all huge like kaiju fans, and so we'll blame Mick on that one. But it's and thanks to them, I have that Mechagodzilla 2 just sitting right back there. It's I am excited. Rodan, me and my friend Jorge Garcia from Lost, we did a kaiju podcast for 4 years.
No way.
It's literally just called the Kaiju Podcast. And I forgot what I was going to say, but we had a top 5 list running as we went through, and Rodan was our number 1.
Man, it's amazing. Never been released. I mean, it's like insane, man. But we have 17 Toho titles in total. We've probably think we've released like 7 or 8 now. I can't remember. Sorry, still early for me. And I think there's only 2 that we haven't assigned art, or I'm waiting for the arts to just say yes. Everything else is in production at some point. But like,
the art that's been coming out of those has been phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah, because I really want to do those movies just because I love Toho as a whole. Love Godzilla. Like, how did that
license all shake out? Because it seemed like you and Waxworks at the same time started releasing Toho stuff. How was that all divvied up?
Well, Death Waltz had put out the 54 Godzilla in 2014, right. And then for various reasons, nothing else just happened with it, right? Mm-hmm. Then our poster team and Toys and Collectibles team had started to work with Toho, and I just started to make inquiries. And I think the High C era and the Millennium era are like really underserviced for fans. Everybody focuses on Showa, right? Like,
right, yeah,
it's the original, right? But I think like my favorite movies, like obviously I love the first one, love Shin, but like Godzilla vs. Destroyer is like, that's my, I cry when I see that movie, man. It's heartbreaking at the end, like it's like the real deal, and no one kind of pays that much attention to them. And right. I was like, this is the list of everything I'd love to do, and they were like, well, this is what's left available. This is what you can take, and I was like, okay, cool. Bang, 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 bang. We'll do these. And
I listened to Godzilla 84 or Return of Godzilla.
Yeah.
It might be my most listened to Kaiju score. I put it in all the time. It's a nice listen. Henry's artwork is great. It has the pop-up. That's cool. But then I also been listening to, which is a movie I don't even really care for that much, but I had to get the album because I'm collecting them all. And the artwork was phenomenal.
You're going to say Rebirth of Mothra, right?
Rebirth of Mothra. The music, the score is great. The score is so good. I'm not a fan. The movies. They're for kids. So fun. I know but as far as the 3 of those go, that trilogy, I think the first one is my least favorite of the 3. You can go back and listen to my thoughts with me and Jorge.
But those scores are like Amblin scores. They're incredibly rich and beautiful.
They're great. Yeah, they're great. And I want to say that the Rebirth of Mothra has something in there that's very Bernard Herrmann-esque, almost like Lifted, if I remember correctly. But it's like, I've been loving them. Just like dying. But between like, okay, so I have one question. I don't know. I don't want to sound insensitive or anything, but like, Waxwork released their Mothra, and their color vinyl had a similar design to Rebirth of Mothra. Like, is that something that were 2 separate thoughts that just happened to be similar? Were you guys contacted? Did you discuss that at all?
I mean, I don't know. We put I can't remember when Rebirth came out. I guess it was like February.
Came out before. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
But I mean,
it's an obvious. If you are making a Mothra record, anybody that's making a Mothra record would be like, oh, we have an effect that can make it look like wings. So I would imagine their record was put into production around the same time as ours. So to me, I saw it and was like, yeah, of course you do that. That's why wouldn't you? Because that's what I thought. So it's like,
it kind of adds a little continuity between the labels, which I like, because they're all going together on the same shelf regardless.
Yeah.
I don't.
They work with incredible artists, and their attention to detail is really, really impressive. I'm not the hugest Toho fan, so I have not been paying attention too much to their collection beyond seeing the box set and then seeing their Mothra release when it got announced. But as far as collectors are concerned, we want to make sure that our titles and their titles are that no one's looking at one or the other and being like, oh my god, like whatever, because we're all just fans. We want fans to be happy with the end result, right? It's not really about competing with one another,
Yeah.
And we don't release the same titles with I think that all the labels in the soundtrack space have their kind of own voice you know?
Right. I don't have much more to talk about. I know you guys are super busy. And I thank you guys for taking the time to do this. If as a new collector, I still I have over 150 records now. Because I'm filling up like Mo, your boxes. I'm filling up like 3 of those in the living room, and I had to move these into here. So I think they fit like 50 each. So I have like a lot in the last 2.5. But as a new collector, is there anything you have any advice for me as far as like
get out? Just get out. Stop.
Oh, it's too well. The good thing is I primarily listen to film music. So luckily it's not like the easiest thing to collect. I have to actually go hunt for this stuff. It's the smallest section in Amoeba. Really between Enjoy the Ride, Waxwork, TerraVision, you guys, and a couple others, like there isn't really a lot of labels out there that just focus on film score. Like I don't even really listen to soundtracks. I listen to film score. So
I mean, I would say don't sleep on trunk records and finders keepers. Like those guys, along with like Perez, like the OGs of this. You know, people talk about us, Waxwork, you know, like these labels, but like there are guys like, you know, Andy and Doug at Finders Keepers have released some incredibly rare soundtracks, and you know, and my advice was not advice. You don't need advice to spend money, but just have fun with it, man. Just enjoy it. I think sometimes we get so caught up in how limited it is. All right, I didn't get this colorway, that you can become frustrated and you forget that the reason I assume the reason you started to buy these things is like you saw the Waxwork Godzilla box set and you're like, wow, that's like a beautiful piece of art that I want on my shelf, right? And I want to enjoy it. So I think it worries me when people don't enjoy, you know, like, you see people moan and like, I don't like this, I don't like that. And it's like, yeah, but just focus on the bits that you do like. You might not like the artwork, but you still like the music, you know, like just enjoy it, because that's what it's supposed to give you joy, right? It's supposed to give you joy and a hernia when you move. Collected records. It's the 2 things.
I have yet to move that box set right there. 26 pounds.
Yeah, weighs a ton. You can work out with it, man.
So like popping one of those on, it got to the point where I just dumped them all out and put them on my shelf outside of the box. So I just grab them one at a time, and I list all of them. But it's luckily I'm in that small niche of film score and vinyl.
But there's still thousands of records out there for you to buy. That's you know, you may think it's niche, but you're not talking like 100.
I try to avoid Discogs. I like made rules for myself. Like I can go out and find stuff. Like I found Moonraker, I found Live and Let Die. I found those at local record stores. And I'll try to limit myself. Sometimes me and my wife, when we're there together and she starts grabbing stuff, I feel like I have permission to grab more stuff. And so we'll drop, you know, a couple $100, but we listen to every single one of them.
Have you been to Atomic in Burbank?
I haven't. I'm a little bit outside of LA. If I do make my way up there, I'll stop at someplace, but I'll go there for sure.
They have a huge soundtrack section.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my advice to new collectors is ignore all the curmudgeonly, gatekeepery assholes out there who try to tell you exactly how and specifically why you should be collecting and how to enjoy things. It's truthfully the most joy I've gotten from being in this space and being a person who makes records is seeing all the new young predominantly female collectors who are out there who their entry to it was Taylor Swift, right? Their entry to it was a Harry Styles record. And I am so terrified that they're going to get into some forum and get up against some like bullying dude who's only been collecting it for like 10 years longer than they have and telling them how it is and how they're ruining it. Like, honestly, buy records that you like, collect them, support musicians. That's ultimately what you're doing, because at the end of the day, physical media is a luxury and not every artist gets their thing on physical media. So if you like an artist and their release comes out on physical media, that's the best way to support them. So ignore all the other noise. It's all very, very stupid.
And let's free the word vinyls. I can say it. Say it out loud and proud.
Just say vinyls. It doesn't matter.
Vinyls. You know, this is the stuff that should. You know, I used to be one of those.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing.
It's vinyl. Yeah, yeah, man.
The plural of vinyl is vinyl. You'll see people like have stickers of that on their things. They'll like yell. One time at one of our conventions at MondoCon, we literally released a shirt that just said vinyls with like 5 S's just to push against that. Like, who cares? Yeah. Say vinyls.
It's like the newest thing they're trying to get us to say. Lego is the plural of Legos.
No, I'm from a Puerto Rican household. You add arbitrary S's to everything. It's Legos. I don't care, and I love Legos.
Call it what you want, man. Wax, vinyl, disc. Someone says, "What's the difference between the big one and the small one?" And I'm like, "That's all the difference is. One's big and one's small, man. All the same."
I always fuck up 45. Oh my god, this is embarrassing. I listened to Waxworks Mothra. Side A completely at 33, and it's a 45.
Everyone is and, so there used to be a really famous DJ called John Peel, right, on radio back home in the UK. He, I would say, did more for the music scene than any other DJ. He's the first person that was playing like The Cure, GSM Chain, you know, blah blah blah, like from way back in the 80s. He regularly live on air would just play records at the wrong speed and not notice, and then just halfway through lift the needle up and go, "Well, let's start again, shall we?" We visited Got a Groove record pressing plant this week to just say hello and like pop in and see Matt and those guys and just be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they give us a little tour and stuff. And they have a guy there that just worked there since 2009. He listens to, you know, every 50th record that comes off the press. Right. They listen to them at 45 RPM so he can get through them quicker because he's listening for like defects that your ears can pick up. And when we left, right, we were at dinner and I said to Mo, how does that guy function in the real world for listening to music at the wrong speed all day? It would really flip me out, man.
I sat on the couch reading my book. My wife was playing her game, and we listened to the whole side. And I was just like, and they're like, "Yeah, this is awesome." Put it on side B. Track 1 is the Peanuts singing the Mothra song, and it sounds like 2 orcs singing the Mothra song. I'm like, I'm a fucking idiot. I can't believe I just listened to the whole side 1. It was totally down with it.
Collecting that hasn't done that, and if they tell you they haven't, they're lying.
We did the soundtrack to Kubo and the Two Strings, which is 95% score. And then the last track on side D is the Regina Spektor cover of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And there are some people who are just sort of like, why is the last song on the record pressed at the wrong speed? And you have to be like, I'm so sorry, you listened to all three and a half sides at the wrong speed. But I guess that means the score is really beautiful, even at 45, right? Like, or even at 33, it must sound really beautiful. Just goes to show there's different ways to listen to things.
And there's a ton of things on YouTube that are time stretched, like Dolly Parton's Jolene. There's a version of that that's time stretched to like 8 hours, right? So it just becomes this kind of like ambient, kind of meditative piece of music. I mean, yeah, man. Whatever.
That's Inception too. The whole Inception, the WOMs are that song, that French song, slowed down and stretched out. That's like what the it's what is it? I forget the name of the song now, but like at one point we were talking about doing Inception, and I was like, oh, we should cut a side of it that literally the track is at 3 different speeds so that you can listen to it at 33, 45, and 78. But if you played it at 33, when you got to the 78 version, it would just be like brrr, because that's a fun little musical effect, you know?
Well, I can say I highly recommend Mothra.
Yeah,
give it a shot.
I'll give that.
Completely listenable. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. We went a little bit longer than initially planned, but it was a fun conversation. Yeah, hope to talk to you guys soon, and I look forward to everything you guys have coming up. Go relax and or get back to work, whatever you guys are up to today.
Let's get back to work. We have a meeting in 3 minutes.
All right, get to it. Thanks for your time, and hope to talk to you soon.